So now I would like to announce our next lecturer, which is going to be Karen Ashbrook, and she's going to be talking about a major shift in the US Dulcimer community during the COVID-19 pandemic. And Radka was also talking about the fact that if you'll be interested, we can send you the lecture notes after the presentation. And because of the time pressure, we don't have enough time to ask questions during the presentation. But afterwards, if you would like to, you can find Karen anywhere and you can ask her specific questions. Or when there's break, you can always ask her. So enjoy, and Karen, you can take over.
Thank you, thank you. In the United States, the term dulcimer can refer to either of two instruments, the hammered dulcimer, like the cimbalom, or the mounted dulcimer, also called the Appalachian or fretted or lap dulcimer. The dulcimer community typically includes both types because of the shared name. Isn't that crazy? They frequently are found together in clubs and festivals. Most festivals that feature hammered dulcimer also include the mountain dulcimer. Some festivals are limited to only the mountain dulcimer, as that instrument is more popular. It has 3 or 4 strings. It is very light. The hammered dulcimer is bigger. These festivals are usually relatively small events, typically drawing 75 to 150 people from primarily local areas. The dulcimer community as a whole has challenges. The players are frequently over 60 years old, just like me. They tend to be rural, that is not in the city, in the countryside, and they are more likely to have limited computer knowledge. Many parts of the country do not have access to any dulcimer resources. Festivals, where they exist, provide opportunities for buying and comparing instruments for instruction and for social and musical interactions. While the 1990s and the early 2000s were peak years of interest in the hammered dulcimer, its popularity in the US has been waning, has been dropping. Then the pandemic shut down all live music events in the US in March of 2020. And I think our story is the story in many countries, but this is the US version of what happened in our community. The popular hammered dulcimer builder Russell Cook, who in 1981 founded the company that became Masterworks, was concerned. He was worried that without live gatherings, the dulcimer community would collapse. People would stop playing dulcimers, and professionals would lose much of their income. For days, he wondered what could be done to help, and then had the idea of having a virtual event, a concert that might include workshops. He asked his son, Corey, a computer engineer, his opinion about it. Corey thought it was the best idea his father had ever had. But Corey was too busy to help, and Russell didn't have the technical expertise to make it happen. So Russell called Jess Dickinson, who is a retired Mississippi Supreme Court judge and hammered dulcimer player with extensive experience in video production. The collaboration led to the most significant shift in the US dulcimer community since Sam Rosetta made pioneering innovations to the designs of the American fifth tune instrument. And I just mention this because there are 2 big changes in the hammered dulcimer community in the last 100 years. One is Sam Rosetta, who Nick Blanton worked with very extensively on design, and Sam pioneered 2 changes that every dulcimer in the US today have. One is marking our courses for where the scales start, and the other is using 2 strings per course instead of 3 or 4, which made the instrument a lot lighter and smaller. So I just have to mention this. But this is the next big change. So, Jess invited a group of Dulcimer professionals to volunteer to help him with the logistics of creating and producing a one-time virtual festival with workshops and performances. One time. Since everyone was quarantined by COVID and wanted to play music or tunes, they came up with the name Quarantune Virtual Festival, or QDF. We call it QD for Quarantune Dulcimer Fest. Committees were formed. They created a Facebook group and website, virtualdulcimerfest.com, for announcements and registrations. They managed to put together QDF 1.0 for the first weekend in June of 2020. The affordably priced workshops allowed participants to take several of the one-hour classes, with all the income from the workshops going to the teachers. Russell predicted that 300 to 400 people would register for the two-day festival with 30 instructors. Jess optimistically hoped that there would be 600 to 800 participants, but they had no idea. The QDF Facebook group soon attracted over 1,000 followers. It currently has 3,500 plus members. In the first 3 hours of registration, 735 people signed up for approximately 5,700 spaces in workshops. It's amazing the website didn't crash. Russell and Jess were happily surprised when 1,500 people took part in the festival. Now remember, I said a regular festival is 75 to 150 people. So 1,500 is a lot more. Each individual class was limited to 30 spaces. This helped the lesser-known teachers gain students, as the better-known teachers' classes sold out in minutes of registration. Over 90% of the seats sold. The teachers made significant income, more than they ever had at a Dulcimer festival before. Some teachers would have become homeless if the QDF festival had not come along, and that is a true fact. There are teachers that told Russell that they were on the verge of losing their houses. Participants clamored for more. They loved connecting with their virtual festival buddies. People who had never attended festivals or taken lessons suddenly were able to experience diverse personalities and teaching styles. This enabled them to choose someone who they felt would fit their learning needs. I call QDF speed dating with Dulcimer teachers. Let's find out who I like. An hour with this person and an hour with that person. The organizers responded and planned more festivals. Changes were made. Teachers and workshops were added. Christmas concerts were organized, and the number of attendees increased. The administration staff was trimmed down. After a few festivals, it was clear that the organizers, the need and desire to continue the festival was strong, but it was not sustainable for all the organizers to remain only on a volunteer basis. Some adjustments were made to create payments for the administration, as well as to cover the festival expenses. However, the teachers continued to earn all the income from their workshops. Quarantune 8.0 just finished in early October of this year. After Quarantune 1.0, the subsequent weekends have had 60 to 70 teachers with 400 to 500 individual workshops each time. Approximately 4,000 people have now participated in QDF. Of those, roughly 40% are hammered dulcimer and 60% are mountain dulcimer players. Of course, some people play both kinds. Many of one have decided to take up the other, inspired by the festival concerts. This is actually increasing the hammered dulcimer community, and it's the first time in a long time the numbers are going up and not down. QDF brought the dulcimer community online. Students and teachers learned how to use Zoom for music. These are people who had no interest in doing anything online previous to lockdown. QDF was irresistible. So many teachers, so many students, so inexpensive, accessible from anywhere with the internet. Participants quickly discovered the many advantages of virtual learning. They could hear themselves. Nobody heard their mistakes. They could see the teacher's dulcimer up close, and sometimes, now frequently, summary videos or even a recording of the whole class were provided, and all from the comfort of home. Other festivals started exploring moving online when it became clear that meeting in person wasn't going to be possible for a long time. In fact, QDF was such a success that it educated musicians of all levels on how to meaningfully connect online from their homes. This helped pave the way for other festivals to follow and emboldened students to take online private lessons. It was a win-win for everyone. Contrary to Russell's initial fear, the dulcimer community did not collapse. Instruments came out from under the beds and out of closets after years of gathering dust, as people were stuck at home and needed something to do. New instrument sales rose as folks finally took up a long-desired musical activity or outgrew their starter instruments. They could take music lessons and practice with all the extra time at home. They could attend virtual festivals. An unexpected added bonus, Russell received many grateful notes from QDF participants saying that learning to use Zoom had enabled them to virtually visit with their grandchildren and families during lockdown. So that was very sweet. Again, the age demographic of the dulcimer community, often not computer savvy. They never would have become computer savvy if the lockdown had not happened. There were concerns that QDF would ruin in-person events, which are much smaller and have higher fees. When Russell was angrily approached about how QDF would destroy other festivals, he emphatically offered assurances that if he thought that were the case, he would stop QDF immediately. What we have learned is that virtual and in-person events satisfy different needs. From an accessibility point of view, virtual events will continue. For reasons of health, time, and/or economic restraints, many people are unable to attend in-person events. Virtual ones are essential. They generate significant income for the professionals, often much higher than the labor of love wages received at in-person events. Of course, nothing replaces the fun and camaraderie that casual time spent together, hanging out, sharing meals, sharing beer, and jamming at such festivals provides. The small regional events introduce people who are geographically close to each other, building local opportunities for meeting outside of festivals. Russell roughly estimates there are around 100,000 hammered dulcimers in the U.S. It is obvious that festival attendees, both virtual or in person, are still a small percentage of that number. Today we find that community bonds are growing as participants meet new enthusiasts from different countries repeatedly at virtual festivals. When I was a featured performer at live festivals, I would see the same people only every 5 to 7 years. Now I see them several times a year at online festivals, regardless of where they live. British players often attend US events, and American players zoom into the British Nonesuch Club events. There is cross-pollination of players and teachers into continental Europe and even Japan. Between festivals, the QDF Facebook group is very active, with people sharing details of their musical lives and supporting each other. QDF has proven to build and strengthen the Hammered and Mountain Dulcimer communities. It has generated fun and excitement for players, increasing their skills with new instruction. It has expanded the fan bases and work opportunities for professionals. It has become an event that introduces emerging teachers and performers. It educated all involved to the effectiveness and advantages of online musical platforms. We are entering a new phase in worldwide communications. The pandemic shutdown led to many changes out of necessity. The music industry is expanding to include both in-person and virtual events. Anyone, anywhere, with high-speed internet has the revolutionary option to virtually attend classes, learn, teach, and perform. These changes are helping the Dulcimer community to thrive and grow. And that's my talk. If you have any questions, ask me later.